Late night television is not only in a total collapse of ratings, but also it must be grating on the executives who are trying to afford these late night hosts who are not pulling audiences in through the door. We're talking today about Colbert, Kimmel, and Fallon, and the failing way they are unable to attract audiences to watch late night. It could be the end of the era Johnny Carson built. Welcome one and all to the Pro Channel, where we endeavor every day to explain entertainment and keep you ahead of the culture curve. An evolution of entertainment is happening. It's already underway. Audiences leaving in droves, no longer interested in the droning on of comedians who left the funny behind. Late night is the latest to be falling, and folks, we are here to give you what's happening, despite the fact that the dinosaur legacy media is not covering this quite yet. Ahead of that culture curve, you bet we are. Folks, we ask you to click the like button, and we'll bring the panel on and explain right now. Late night TV, they're not talking about this a tremendous amount yet, but they will be. Late night TV is now on the edge of collapse, of losing its support. We're going to show you why. It comes down to a math problem, and that's the worst kind of problem for these gentlemen to continue to do what they do. They once upon a time were supposed to be funny men, but they lost the funny, and they went all in on politics. This is from Last Night On, and it says all four late night host salaries rank from lowest to highest. It's by Danilo Castro, and Seth Meyers is being paid $5 million for what he does late at night when nobody watches. But here are the big ones. Stephen Colbert is being paid $15 million. Remember these, folks. They're not going to be hard because they're very similar.
Wait, just to be clear. Is it $15 million by CBS or by Pfizer?
Oh, your jabs are so swift, Joe.
Ooh, nasty.
Jimmy Kimmel with $15 million. The Kimmel is not going to be hosting any award shows this year, we don't believe, which may give you some indication of how popular he is. And then you've got Fallon, who somehow is getting more than the other two, despite having lower ratings. Fallon is earning $16 million. Now, also remember, folks, that these gentlemen, that these salaries they earn are not the end of the budget for these massive shows and productions. They have huge amounts of staff, camera people, grips. They have writers. There's the process of bringing the people in for the live tapings. These are very expensive endeavors indeed. And what is the reward for late night as of lately? Well, for that, we're going to go to latenighter.com, and we are looking at the Live Plus SD ratings, specifically in the 18 to 49 demo, because that's the demo that pays for the advertising, essentially. So, what are the numbers that they're getting on a daily basis? Well, here's what we've got. Jimmy Kimmel. Get ready for this, folks. This is unbelievable. Jimmy Kimmel on ABC, a network show. I don't care what time it comes on. It's on the network. That means it's in every household. For the 18 through 49 demo, 143,000 viewers. On CBS, 239,000 viewers with Stephen Colbert. And NBC with Jimmy Fallon, 187,000 viewers in the demo.
So this is nightly.
Nightly. This is not millions. No, this is hundreds of thousands.
And Carson would get between 1.5 mil on a bad night and up to 7 to 8 on a good night.
Right. So let me show you this, and this really, I think, points to the problem. If we go to Nielsen and we take a look at cable television, so not the networks, and we go to the top 10 for the week of September 16th through September 22nd. And the reason we're doing this is I'm trying to go far enough back that we're not into the election coverage. If we go through Nielsen right now, more recently, we're going to get into election stuff. But September 16th through September 22nd, we're earlier. Hopefully that doesn't weigh into this. Gutfeld. Okay, wow. Gutfeld is a comedy show on a cable news channel, but it's late night, and in viewers, almost 5 million. Now, we have an apples to orange that we need to declare here, and that is that we are not looking at Gutfeld in terms of the demo. So this is just all viewers. But still, we're almost at 5 million viewers tuning into Gutfeld. And if we go back to the legacy, mainstream, dinosaur network media, with the 18 to 49 crowd, that's the one that counts, you're looking at 143,000, 239,000, 187,000 for these. Their salaries simply can no longer be justified. Now, if we were to escape this demo, by the way, it does get better and you do approach the millions. But this is what really matters. By the way, all three, and even all four, if we want to include Seth Meyers, you can put all four of them together and they do not have the viewership of Gutfeld. And I'll guarantee you that Gutfeld over on Fox News, although we're no shills of Fox News, I'll guarantee you that Gutfeld, that the budget for that show versus the budgets for any of these shows.
Oh, yeah.
Gutfeld is nowhere close. Chatto, what are we seeing in comedy right now? And what's the turnaround here? Should they continue to try to fix this? Should they go and find somebody else to do this? Or is late night sort of over as the internet has taken over?
Well, that's an interesting, I think that's an interesting point on multiple fronts. So one concern I would have as a network exec is, have these personalities blown their chances? Even with these low ratings, these are well-known people that Hollywood still wants to court and still wants to put personalities on when they're promoting stuff. Okay. But if you take a look at the share of the shows, and I don't know whether share means the same thing now as in my time, but the share is a percentage of the TV sets that are actually on at any given time. So it's not an overall rating, it's the share. So 2.7% of the TV sets that are on at that time, and you're going to get a much smaller overall percentage at 11 o'clock anyway, right? That's the number of sets that are on, except for fat guys that have fallen asleep in front of the TV,
which is not a small demographic for late night television.
True. That is pretty big. So 2.75 percent share out of a smaller share, that is really bad. That is concerning for the networks. And I think part of the problem, I'm just guessing this now off the top of my head, is that I think the networks are really afraid of pulling the plug on their shows and admitting defeat and letting this entire category die. They don't want to be the first person to pull the stone out of the Berlin Wall. This whole category is moribund.
Well, let's look at the category, Paul, because you're exactly right. If we add up those three shows together, they are making up less than 10% of the share combined during that time frame.
Yeah,
which to me indicates that the category's done. Like late night is done because it's not even. If you're less than 10% at the 1 hour of the clock that you're supposed to dominate, that's pathetic.
And so that doesn't mean, because entertainment is so personality driven, it is not beyond the realm of possibility that some individual could take over from Kimmel or Colbert and drive new great numbers. Someone who can become the new Carson. Those things are not impossible.
But they've got to go find them.
They got to go find them. And these people tend to have to be nurtured. We've been talking about Rogan for a while, and his success only comes from the fact that he's been exploring his niche for so long and kind of discovered it over time without being pestered, right? And then suddenly it didn't suddenly, it's like the overnight sensation joke, right? He's suddenly an overnight sensation. That's not a plan. You can't go, we're going to hide this person for 10 years and then have them come to the forefront. The other thing that I was often wondering, yeah, right.
Exactly.
The other thing that I was wondering is, did any of the networks actually pitch Joe to replace any of these hosts as his audience grew? Did they ever contemplate having some kind of synergistic overlap between network TV and social media TV, which is, I call YouTube and Spotify social media TV. Did they ever consider trying to grab him before Spotify did? Although Spotify gave him so much cash, none of the networks would have matched what Spotify was offering him. So to me, it would be interesting if they did court him. If they didn't, then I would say that would be interesting in that they still don't understand the synergy between what's happening on social media. If I was the head of one of the networks, I would have been going after Joe a long time ago. And I think the networks have to replace. I'm not entirely certain they need to kill this category, but I think they need to replace all those hosts. But with who, I don't know.
And whether or not they get people who agree politically with the mainstream doesn't matter. What matters is, can they find somebody who's charming and who can step away from constantly being hyper partisan? So, for example, Stephen Colbert and Steve Carell may agree completely on every single political issue, but Steve Carell is not associated with hyper partisanship. They could bring in Steve Carell and say, don't touch politics unless it's a joke or two, and he would be very successful. I don't know what Drew Carey's politics are. You could bring him in. Now, I know they would want to find somebody much younger because you want to run with this for, a decade or two, and those guys are getting older now. Culture, I see you want to weigh in on this.
Yeah, I bring in Conan.
He's not popular enough. He's hip, but I don't think he's huge. Well,
bring the Scotsman back.
Frankie Ferg.
Yeah, bring me.
I like back. Both of those guys.
Yeah, I'm just saying, or bring both of them, put them together. When was the last time they tried to do that for a late night show?
Have them fight over the Snake Cup. I like this.
Well, Seth Meyers is tedious. I don't find him particularly interesting.
He's unwatchable.
Fallon is unwatchable.
Yeah.
Oh God, he's unwatchable.
He just can't shut up. But they're trying to turn it into a bad version of the Steve Allen late night show, where everything has got to be a sketch or entertaining. There's just no adults.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible.
Yeah, that was actually kind of a perfect thing for Jimmy Kimmel to interject there.
Yeah,
I feel like you just don't have anybody there that's good. And like you were saying about Fallon just wants everybody to like him.
I know.
To be everybody's friend. It's so annoying. I'm like, he doesn't ask any in-depth question. That's the other problem. None of this stuff works anymore because the audience gets more out of what you're calling social media television, right? You get far more out of YouTube. It's a conversation, but you may have a panel full of people, but there's an audience that's engaging, right? And the conversations are real or more thoughtful. You can't the idea around these late night shows, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Paul Chatto, it was
I'm the expert.
That you are was why it was to promote things, right? It was to promote. The commercials were a promotion. The show itself was a promotion, usually of a film or television or whatever. And they bring in the stars, and it was entirely scripted. Even the moments that you thought were, somewhat authentic, and that doesn't work anymore because people want. If you're going to be on this type of a medium, people want something more with that for sure, but they also want like real questions. It's real conversations. That's why Joe engages people, right?
So I'll tell you something. I would love to hear from the panel whether you agree or disagree, but I think the best late night show would have been Ellen DeGeneres in her prime before she fell off the cliff.
Before people hated her, yes.
Yeah,
she's okay.
She was doing the best job pampering the guests. She's smart. She was smart. She's funny. I've seen her live, and to me, at her prime, she would have been the best host compared to any of these three.
Yeah, if we go back 12 years, I agree totally. But now, of course, her PR is just
no. Absolutely. So people exist out there, and if I was a network exec, I would be looking to replace any or all of these people depending on which network I was working for.
What's funny is I think that we're boiling this down to the idea that instead of a late night that is supposed to be the biggest thing on the network, it would be better served by having a stable host who is good at reflecting back on the guests, and as in conversationally reflecting with their guests. So literally a podcast would be a better item at this point, especially.
I agree with you.
market.
And that's what Conan is doing, by the way. Conan has switched over to doing a podcast. I'll tell you, every time I tune into the late night shows, I always think, come on, guys, interrupt your guests more. That's I just don't understand why they don't do it. Jonas, you got any thoughts on that? Why they just don't interrupt? I mean,
I think it's the essential part of any podcast to believe in yourself and believe in your heart that you are funny when you interrupt people.
Every 17 seconds. That's what they should do. I've heard that from somebody.
I think you make a good point that they need to stop treating late night the way it was back in its heyday. They've lost their audience. I think, who is it? Tom. There was a late night. No, Tom. There was dark hair, and he was the first person who did conversational late night hosting. Tom. I loved his show. Anyway, I can't remember it, but he was kind of the first person to kind of do a podcast style interview where he let the people.
About Tom Green?
No, not Tom. No, not Tom.
Well, you could say
on the cheese.
Charlie Rose was
Tom Snyder. Yes, Tom Snyder was the first person to do the conversational bit at late night on late night.
Well, another late night show that I'll bring up, again, I'm aging myself, but it was pretty iconic for me, was the Arsenio Hall show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
That show was it was fun. It was, it was edgy. And again, advertising products. Nobody really knew who Sammy Dinar was until he started doing Arsenio Hall suits and, and all of that. And he'd have conversations, with his guests, some topics that kind of made them, not real comfortable, but asking the questions that we wanted to ask. And he had a great time, and people just had a great time watching his
Well, he also had guests that no one else was featuring.
That's true too, right?
Yep. And he, folks, I would recommend you go out there and find this. It's on YouTube, I'm sure, but he had the final appearance of Jim Henson on television, I believe.
Wow. Don't tell Disney. They'll try to get rid of it.
It's always sad when one of these video ends, and yet it is the beginning of the wait for the next one to land. 4 times a day right here on the Pro Channel. And by the way, there's plenty more on our partner channels. That Part Place, That Pod Place, That Game Place, and go check out the original music we have on stations like Vacation Radio. We'd love to have you, love to entertain you. At least we'll do a better job than some of the current entertainment companies. Folks, like, share, subscribe, and you know what? Drop a comment right on down below. Share this out anywhere you go on social media. And until the next time, we have the honor, the pleasure of getting to spend time with you when you choose to invite us into your day to add the value that we hope to bring your way. We ask that you keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.